Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any comments or statements from the public before we get started? And with none, we'll start with our student representative, who I'm very happy to see here tonight.
You must be one of the basketball games.
Yes. It was actually suggested to me that I take you off the agenda by somebody. I said, I'm not taking Danny off the agenda.
I apologize. I really do.
It's all right. You're a busy guy.
Thank you.
Doing a lot of things. So
I'm going to try. I'm going to try my hardest.
That's
I have
right.
practice in church tonight, so.
Good candy, too.
Oh, I just got back from Mexico.
No, he went on a trip.
Thank you.
So what's going on?
Okay. Well, I wanted to start by formally apologizing for missing the last couple of meetings. So.
We didn't notice.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, we'll start with the sports. The winter sports. Varsity boys basketball. They won the Mayflower League. They ended the regular season undefeated with a 12-0 record, so we were really proud of that. They are playing their first playoff game tonight at 7 versus Millis, so it's encouraged to go. The varsity girls finished second in the Mayflower League, which is also a great accomplishment. They played their first round tomorrow here against Tri-County, and that's at 7 also. Both the JV and the freshman teams had a successful year. The turnout of boys for basketball was great, and the girls' numbers were not so great. Only 9 girls played altogether, and the last few games were played with only 6 girls because we lost 3 due to injuries. So it's been kind of tough on the girls' team. The cheerleaders also did great this season. We had 15 girls who participated, and every girl that tried out was able to stay. We did not lose any winter athletes due to ineligibility, so they kept up to the requirements. So we were proud of that too. The spring sports, spring signups are up in the athletics office. Spring signups are up in softball, track, as well as boys and girls tennis. Signups are down in baseball and are actually threatening whether or not we will have a JV team. So we're hoping to get some more baseball signups.
When can they sign up until?
I'm not sure the exact deadline, but I can find that out and bring it to you next meeting. The guidance department is now receiving many scholarship forms, and a lot of seniors are applying for those because anything helps. They are also heavily preparing for the NEASC visit, and they just conducted the NAEP testing, which is the NAEP testing. It's used to establish the nation's report card, so we'll be put into the average of the nation and see what kind of grade the nation gets altogether. NHS, they conducted a carnation sale on Valentine's Day, which helped to raise money. The NHS is trying to buy T-shirts for their members, so that way they're more visible to the student body. We currently have 36 eligible candidates who are undergoing the interview process as of this week. The induction ceremony will be Thursday, March 21st at 6 p.m. in the auditorium. We also created an honorary membership, which includes the kids of the RISE program who have eligible GPAs and meet the requirements, but they won't be required to do the community service and pay the dues. The honorary members, along with the sophomore honorees, will be honored at the induction ceremony as well. SAD has had a successful year. A couple weeks ago, during lunch, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the program To Write Love on Her Arms. It's an organization that is against it's to raise awareness for abuse in relationships. So the SAD spent lunch, and anybody who wanted to go up to the table, they wrote Love on Their Arms to help raise awareness for abuse in relationships. They also held the Grim Reaper Day to help raise awareness for teenage car crashes due to drunk driving, texting while driving, and that was very successful.
Can you describe Grim Reaper Day for either those people here that
Sure.
may not? I've seen it,
Sure.
so I've seen it happening in the school. It's kind of weird to see it happen as the day progresses, so explain
Sure.
it.
Grim Reaper Day, it starts with a Grim Reaper, and the Grim Reaper will go into your class, and it's a list of people who have already volunteered to help, and the Grim Reaper will go into your class, and they'll point at you, and you'll leave the classroom, and the police officer will come into the classroom and explain, on this day at this time, Daniel Marks died due to a drunk driving accident, and then the student goes downstairs or to the office, and they put on all black clothing, and they paint their face white, and they go back to their class, and they're not able to speak or really have much emotion throughout the rest of the day.
It's as if they don't exist anymore.
It's as
And
if they don't exist.
I believe it's 1 every 20 minutes, which
It's 1
is
every
what
20
the
minutes.
equivalent of the statistics is.
The
Wow.
statistics, yes, 1 every 20 minutes. So
It's bizarre how many you see walking through the hallways.
So you
actually.
start off the day with just one person, and then before you know it, you have a line of kids out, and it's kind of scary. It kind of makes it, very visual, and it makes it reality. So that was the Grim Reaper Day, and that was very successful. Yearbook Club. The Yearbook Club is still collecting ads, and the more ads that they receive, the cheaper the price will be. So they are submitting their second deadline as of now, and they have a good group of students working on the yearbook, and they're excited for the yearbook. The Advocates will be hosting a Special Olympics basketball event in early April. They are currently working on a field day proposal as well, which will be on the last day for seniors. It's kind of going to be like a day on the green, but they're going to try and set that up. The student council will also be correlating and helping with that. So let's see. They're planning a March Madness 3-on-3 basketball tournament, and they're excited for that. They will also be cleaning and replanting the memorial garden as well as the courtyard coming up. In December, they had a successful toy drive, and they received many letters of thank you. They also shipped out toys to Sandy Hook Elementary with a convoy that was sent up with Mayor Flanagan. I don't know if you guys were aware of that, but altogether around 80 to 100 toys were donated, and they received a thank you letter. There was one family, Ms. Tripp was telling me that there was one family where the mother had died and the father was laid off, and they weren't going to have a Christmas, and because of the toys that we donated, each child received 13 to 15 toys. So that was a really touching story of how we can impact, the impact that we can have just by donating a simple toy. So they were really proud and really touched by that. In late May, they'll be hosting the Special Olympics here at Westport High School for the first time. So they're excited and a little bit nervous, but they're going to plan it, and they're getting excited for that. The foreign exchange students, we're excited, the student body, the hosts, and the teachers alike, to have our Okinawa friends come and visit us. They will be arriving March 9th, and they'll be staying through the 24th. And Ms. Botcher has created a calendar of all the events and things that they'll be doing, so we can pass that around and kind of see
How
what
many
they'll
kids
be
are
doing.
coming this year?
How many
How
kids?
many are coming this year?
I think it was it 13? I know it's 3 boys.
About a dozen?
It's 3 boys and I think 9 girls, if I'm not mistaken. The Europe trip is coming up, and the students are very excited, and I've seen countless amounts of countdowns on their phones and every device that they own of how excited they are to go to Europe. The itinerary packet is right here. It's a list of all the things they'll be doing and all the places they'll be going. Oh, I'm sorry about that. They will be leaving April 14th, which is a Sunday, and they're all very excited about it, and Ms. Botcher as well. She can't wait. The student council, we had the window decorating in December, which went very well. A large amount of freshmen, sophomore, and seniors showed up to help decorate their windows.
Juniors?
I'm sorry?
Juniors too?
Juniors did not
so
show
much?
up. Juniors
Okay.
shockingly did not show up, to be honest with you. So we also had a very successful pep rally. There was a large amount of student participation, and we were very happy. The freshman class actually shocked us all, and instead of just putting up 1 or 2 posters, they actually decorated, and they actually almost competed with us. They kind of did better than the sophomores, to be honest with you, so we were really excited about that. It's no surprise, the seniors won the pep rally, of course. Not rigged, not rigged.
No,
I promise.
not at all.
I promise.
Never.
The Spirit Week was very successful, and we also had a large amount of students who participated and were excited for it. And the seniors won the Spirit Week. There's no ties in between those. The sophomore class had a very successful Wizards basketball game turnout, and they actually raised over $1,500. So the sophomore class was really excited about that, and we were happy for them as well. The student council bought 2 new breathalyzers for the school dances because I believe 2 decided to go another route. So we bought 2 new breathalyzers for the school dances. We're also currently working on trying to reestablish the school store. We've been brainstorming some ideas about what kind of items that we can purchase that will be successful and kind of more updated than what we've had in the past. We're also trying to brainstorm some ideas of more prominent places in which we can sell the school store items. One idea was, I'm not sure if you guys know, in between the 2 vending machines in the cafeteria that there's that little metal window that you can roll up and roll down. We were thinking about maybe keeping the merchandise in there and selling out of there during break and lunches. But we have to meet with the head of the food department and also with Ms. Tudelo and see if we can get that. But we think that will be very successful. We're trying to, we have some quarter zip sweatshirts that will say Westport. We're trying to design that right now. So we're in the process of trying to reestablish that. The student council will also be collaborating with the advocates concerning the field day. We also held a winter ball, which is not so much a first for a winter dance, but it's a first for a winter ball at White's. There were 120 students who went, which is a pretty large turnout and very successful for a winter dance. The Whites and La France hospitality companies, as always, gave us a break in on the DJ and the cop, and as they always do, they went above and beyond. They promised a chicken bar, but they also gave us nachos and cheese, as well as complimentary coffee and tea for the staff who volunteered that night. So the staff was pretty excited. Everyone made out. It was fantastic. Each class made over $200. And after the dance, students were encouraged to go out to eat at IHOP as a senior class fundraiser. And a percentage of the bill was donated back. It was 20% actually, was donated back out of every bill. And we ended up making $120 from the IHOP fundraisers, which isn't bad. A good turnout. We had a lot of fun, and we're going to try and do that more often. Prom will be May 24th, and Robert's Tuxedo donated 2 free tuxes to students who will not be able to afford a tux, so that was very nice. The prom committee was supposed to have their first meeting at Rachel's today in Westport, but due to weather complications, the meeting was rescheduled to next Wednesday. Also, I'll end here with the honorary students. We have a list of students who have received awards and have been noticed for these awards. Peter Habib was accepted into the All-State Chorus, and he will be performing at Symphony Hall on March 2nd. Rachel Cowan received the President's Volunteer Service Award for her large amount of community service hours. This was a first for Westport High School, so we were really proud of her. And it was just an honor for her and for the school in general. Artwork from Simon Mock, Liam Montano, and Casey Cadero will be on exhibit at the campus gallery at UMass Dartmouth from March 2nd through March 14th. The show is juried, and awards will be announced at the opening reception this Saturday from 2 to 4. So they're really excited about it. Lexi Young, David Lee, and Jane Winters were also accepted as interns in the Artworks Teen Artist Internship Program. Wow. And they'll be attending their first meeting for the program today. So we're very excited for the art program. Alyssa Carvara was also awarded an honorable mention for the Boston Globe Scholastic Arts and Writing Awards earlier this month. She was the only winner out of 7 students who submitted their work. So we were really happy for all those students who won those awards, and a lot's going on at Westport High School, so we're glad.
Seems like it. You guys have any time to do homework and stuff?
We find time. We find time. Yes. So.
I think Danny's up pretty late. Any questions for him?
I didn't see my name on that Europe trip.
I apologize.
Yeah, it is a nice trip. And that's something you guys do every other year.
Every
the
other
exchange
year.
Yes.
Does
so
we got to luck out and have it our senior year, so it's nice.
Good. Well, congratulations to all those students.
Unfortunately, I won't be able to go. But,
he's got to fit it into his schedule. You definitely made up for the fact that you haven't been here for a few weeks, so thank you for that. And I know you touched off with the boys and girls. Again, the boys are playing tonight.
Tonight at 7. At
7.
Versus Millis.
The girls are playing tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 7 versus Tri-County. What's the, they're both here, what's the gate fee for people? The gate fee.
Do we know?
Do you know, Ms. Tudor?
It's like 5 or 7 or something like that. So
5 or 7.
Come and support the kids tonight at 7, tomorrow at 7 at the high school. And if this is a do or die, so if they win, they keep going.
Exactly.
So
we're excited for the boys and the girls as well. We're excited to see.
Now, I do have one question and a concern. I know a couple years ago we lost our softball JV team. We had a JV team and the numbers just petered down. Now you're telling me it looks like it's happening in baseball.
In baseball.
I'm curious, what are you hearing? Why? You sort of got the pulse on what's going on with those kids. So what is it? Is it jobs? Is it money? Is it lack of interest? Overall.
I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I know a lot of the boys played last year, graduated, so we have we have the senior boys who played last year, and I'm not sure, we might have a couple of junior boys, but I think it might be some of the lower classmen. I know we have a small freshman and a small sophomore class, so I'm not sure how the participation is as far as like baseball, the interest in baseball. So I'm not sure, but I could definitely try and get that information.
I'm just curious, because I know we saw it in soccer with boys, and that is definitely a sport that there are a ton of kids in Westport that they play up till 8th grade, and then to come to the high school and see such small numbers and not be able to get a varsity and a JV for soccer, it's just kind of concerning to me, and then seeing it dwindle. And I know we talked about fees the other day, and I'm just sort of curious if this is some of the roll around that we're seeing now, parents going, you got to pick one,
play
maybe
town
2.
leagues, they play.
Yeah, you got to pick, and I'm wondering if this is where the hit is. I don't know, or is it students have to work now more? I don't know. So keep your ear to the ground, because I'm curious.
Now, we do have a new athletic director, and I'm not sure if he knows of the waivers that the middle school students at 8th grade can get to play for the JV teams in the high school, as long as we don't have a middle school baseball team. Let those kids move up to the JV.
He is aware of that.
Okay.
Because that has been suggested. The only thing is they would need to cut the middle school.
Yeah,
the middle school program.
I think
and
the entire program.
I
don't think it's just baseball. I think that's the problem.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can just do it for one sport, if you have to, do it for...
I thought it was for individual sports. You get waivers for individual sports.
Maybe we can have him double check on that.
Yeah, as long as you don't have baseball at the middle school, those kids can get waivers to play for the JV team in high school.
I thought that Chris Donovan had looked into that. And I thought you had to cut the
you'd
entire
have to cut
program.
That program.
I'll send them an email.
It would be nice if it was just if you could pick and choose the programs.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then that's
It
definitely
might be,
something that we can look into.
worth looking into.
Anything else for Danny? No?
Thank
Great
you.
You're
job.
doing a great job leading the school.
Thank you very much.
Glad you presented.
miss you
did
next year.
We did miss you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
All right.
All right, you guys.
Thank you.
Have an eventful meeting.
It will be.
Enjoy.
Uneventful would be better.
Uneventful.
Go out and be a teenager. Have
Yeah.
fun.
On to the action agenda, FY13 transfers. Dr. Colley?
Just wanted to send Jason that before I forgot. Over the last couple of years, we have accumulated certain savings, whether they be from staff coming and going. A lot of it had to do with special education. Some of it had to do with the changes in the transportation contracts. And within the year that those savings occurred, I would be informing the school committee that we had these funds, and towards the end of the year we asked for transfers so that at the end of the year we could account for where the funds were actually being spent. One of the things you sometimes see in the budget is where for the following fiscal year there's a zero there, but you look back at the previous year and you see a large number of how much was spent there. Those tend to be areas where we don't usually allocate funding, and then if there are funds available in any one given year, we transfer funds into those accounts and spend them. I know we have gotten some criticism that we wait till the end of the year and then spend a lot at the end of the year, even though we tell people we're going to be doing this, we're going to be doing this, but the transfers usually happen at the end. This year, actually we started talking about that last year. This year, we've been tracking the same kind of savings, and we then chose to present to you at least the transfers that we know right now exist that we would like you to have approved, so that we can then go ahead and change the budget to reflect more what has been spent versus, or where it's being spent versus, you know, what was budgeted over a year and a half ago when we didn't have all the information in front of us. So you have line item requests by department. I'm not sure how you would like to do this. I also have Melissa Souza here in case there's any additional question, because sometimes this is more of a shorthand.
I think maybe the best way to do this might actually be to go page by page. If there's something that we have questions about, pull it out, and then we'll just look.
Make a motion?
Sure.
Make a motion to approve all the transfers on the packet?
Even better. Is there a second?
I'll second. I do have just a few questions.
Sure. I just didn't know if anybody had some major concerns.
No,
so.
just pages 16 and 17 are just, actually a few pages after that, also 21, just have numbers and not actual what they are.
That's why I was bringing her here. Oh,
We know what it's going for, but we don't know where it's coming from, and it's just numbers.
16?
Yeah, 16, 17,
16,
20,
17,
21.
the telephone tax, Missy? $315 accounts. I think those are their technology accounts.
Yeah, it's like they're buying, the purchase orders are tech, so I would guess they're technology.
No, just looking at the line number.
Is there looking that up straight?
You're talking 16. Which one's the other one?
Yeah, there's just a few, like page 16, I believe 17,
19.
19, 20, 21.
17, I do know what that was for. We took monies from one of the SPED office accounts.
Okay, so I can tell you 16, I know exactly what that is off the top of my head. Off the top of my head. Usually
I'm just more concerned of the people when they log on
Right.
and try to look at the things and say, okay, where's money coming from, where's it going to?
The telephone tax, if you remember,
Mhm.
not this year, but last year, but after the budget was done, we renegotiated the internet contract, and they gave me a number, and when we got the bill, it included tax, and I didn't think that we needed to pay the tax, but yes, we do. So
Okay.
in this year's budget, that's fixed, but
Okay.
that's what that transfer was.
Okay.
So they're coming from that account number and the lines are just the same account
They're
number?
within the tech department.
Yes.
So you're just transferring within your own department? from
Yes,
here to
yes,
there?
yes.
Yes, yes. The 315 accounts are all tech.
But the ones that are going from, like a sped teacher that left early to a whole different department are labeled correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure there's any of those that I'm seeing with just numbers on
And do you have a
there.
total of the whole transfer?
I don't think we totaled it. Did you total the whole transfer packet?
No, I did, but it's basically from and to, but I don't have a total.
Okay.
So as we're working on the total, I have an amendment I'd like to make, if you'd,
Sure.
the amendment would be to fill in any of the blanks on reasons for transfer and any accounts, just so that we can finalize, so that the motion is to approve as presented with
With all the blanks filled in?
Yeah.
amendments.
May I make a clarification or a question that perhaps answers that? Are you talking like, take a look, for example, at page 24?
Yes,
24, 21,
yes.
Page 24, the issue is you had those amount of monies in separate accounts. They're going to the same purpose. So if you had, for example, a supply account, an equipment account, a contractual account, and you want to gather the little bits of money left in each account into one single account to make a larger purchase, that's why we didn't repeat. I mean, we can repeat, but it'd be just cut and paste, cut and
Yeah,
paste. cut
and
and
and I
no,
think
I-
that's all he's asking.
Is that what
we
you're
just-
asking?
Yeah,
That's
just
why.
so
I
it's
just think that
transparency.
that for transparent reasons, if we can put an explanation, it would make it complete.
So where it says from 315-225, 2255-4260-505-24, and then the next one is blank.
So
that
you wanna
next
go
blank would
down
say,
each
To
one.
account 315-2451-5302-50524.
Okay, and then on the reason for transfer would be the same reason, same PO, same
There's
everything.
got to be a
fill in the
reason,
blanks.
and we ought to put it there. And I think that, so that's,
I second that
as
amendment.
long as Karen understands the amendment.
Yeah.
So going forward with discussion, I think there's value in a couple of things. One is, as Dr. Colley introduced, that transfer is a part of the operations of the schools, as in any organization. Our budgets, our forecasts, they're amended. As identified as criticism, I'd like to consider it input that we've received, both from the school committee as well as the community, that we should keep up with transfers as much as we can. I think going forward, and not tonight, we should consider an amount of transfer that is within the prerogative of the superintendent without coming forward. Because in many cases, these transfers are
Operational budget.
operational adjustments
Just
within their
moving it
own department. So I think as we go forward, in future meetings, that might be new business, but
Policy.
Policy, yeah.
it would be a policy that I would make a motion to send it, I guess.
Yeah.
But, because in many of them, they're small amounts. I do have some comments I'd like to make on some of the larger amounts, and I understand, but I think it's important that as we're referring to these amounts of money, the larger amounts, it is explained, perhaps a resignation or retirement from a teacher who's at a higher pay scale, replaced by a new teacher, a mid-level teacher, is going to save us some money, so we make these adjustments. Those are understood and clearly indicated here as the reason. There is some transfers within here, and as we look at the totality of the transfers, and I think we may have that number now. Any idea what the total is?
I did not total the separating by department. I can.
Okay, so I think as we go forward in our next discussion, we want to recognize that there may be some larger transfers that are taking place that need to be addressed in our starting point of next year's budget?
Just as a point of clarification for us in the office, I've seen in many other districts where transfers between departments come to the school committee, transfers that affect personnel come to the school committee, and transfers over $10,000 come to the school committee. That just have been rules of thumb, not necessarily policies, but in other districts that have been used. If you want to do it that way, it would simplify this.
Get approval for $225.
You know, we just have been following these procedures for so many years. We're still using the same forms that were used, 20 years ago. So if you...
Yeah, well, that's along the line of what I think we'll address at a future meeting.
Right.
10,000 might be a little bit on the high side, but I think we'll look at what makes good sense.
Dr. Colley, just quickly explain,
for those at home watching the teacher transfers for the professional development, why these things aren't there initially.
When we first budget 1 year to the next, we know within the teacher's contract there are 5 days of professional staff development built into the teacher's contract, plus several half days. In order to present to the state at the end of the year how much money we spent on professional development, because the state wants us to keep track of how much training we've provided our teachers, we have to account for every day or every hour or every half day or every full day that we have our staff in the buildings working on staff development activities. So we basically have to calculate for every staff person on those particular days or those half days their per diem rate, add that up, and then eventually make a transfer into a line item account that says professional development. So from each account within the budget that has money saved for salaries, their salaries accounted for in a 185-day period, full days. So out of those accounts, we transfer out those 5 days and those 4 half days and any other amounts of money that they went to a staff development day. We transfer that money so that when we go back to the state at the end of the year, we say they worked as a teacher in front of the kids teaching for 180 days or 183 days, minus 4 half days, minus 5 half days. That money gets put on their staff development. So it's a big transfer of money, because just imagine everybody in the system, 7 days basically, pretty much everybody gets those staff development days. So it's a big transfer, but until we have the teachers on board, and sometimes even during the course of the year when one teacher goes and one teacher comes, we won't know what their per diem rate is until the person's actually sitting there. So we don't make the transfers until the staff development days happen. That's why we have those big minuses in those professional development lines until we transfer it out of the salary accounts.
Thank you.
Right. All those in favor of Michael's motion to approve the transfers with the having the blanks filled in?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. On to actually, you have the FY14 school committee education budget and then the fees. I'm wondering if we should take the fees first.
Fees.
So
You
let's,
can do it any which way you want.
well,
I do
just
have
people had concerns the other day that the fees would impact the budget, so we'll
Hit budget.
switch them out of order, if that's okay.
Sure.
You have 2 areas that we were asked to provide more backup information. One is the fees and the revolving accounts that are associated with those fees, how they get collected. And you also have the grants. So you have 2 big sections of what I'm calling supplementary materials to the school committee education budget.
And both of those sections impact
Right.
decisions that are made budgetary, so.
So, as you know, we provided you with some background as to what the fees are, how much we're collecting, from where, for what reasons. You have the transportation fees, you have the lunch fees, you have the activities fees, you have PK tuition, you have all kinds of fees that get collected through different revolving accounts. Over the years, we've noticed that the accounts have been building up, not every year, but certainly quite frequently will build up some amount of balance. This is one of those years where, if you remember a couple of months ago, when we tallied up the needs, they were very high. Plus, we have been hearing from parents, obviously school committee was concerned about this, that the fees are high, some parents are struggling. So we wanted to address this. I put together a summary sheet that has each of the revolving accounts with the balances going into this year, the 3 years, so you can see where the balances come, and sometimes where there's some big changes from year to year depending on what's happening in that area of the operations of the school. So, for example, under pre-K, and then I give you basically a summarized proposal on a memo. So, for example, on pre-K, we have carried forward a balance of about $18,000. 3 years ago, it was at $17,000, so we've added some. But as you go over the course of the years, we went as high as almost $40,000, and then in FY12, when we had less students, we had one teacher less, so we had less offerings, but still you're paying a teacher and a TA for each one of those rooms. The tuition we collected did not cover the costs, so we lost $23,000 in that year. Right now, I'm not suggesting we change the tuition rates or the fees for pre-K, in part because the Macomber just sent out a survey of different options that parents could avail themselves of if we offered them. So we want to see what parents want, what's the most popular arrangement that they would want, and our hope is that we can do it either with the staff that we have and the fees that we are collecting, so that we kind of break even, or maybe even, reduce somewhat that carry forward, or if the parents clearly want options that we have not offered, or options that are more expensive, that perhaps we come back at a later school committee meeting and adjust the fees just to match whatever that increase is, or use some of this balance, and then if there's still a deficit projected, we increase the fees just to clear that projected deficit. So we don't have that information yet. That's why I didn't make a proposal for that one.
Michael, sorry.
As we look at our cost for the early childhood education, we are putting a budget together, basing our revolving account fee to be zero cost for the pre-K, with the exception of special education classes. However, there seems to be a commitment put forward by the state in next year's budget that's going to increase funding to early childhood education programs. If that results in additional funding into our district, I would think it would be appropriate at that time for us to relook at our fee structure. If the intent of the state is to send, whether it's $100 per student who is enrolled in pre-K, then we should then look at our fees, because now we have more revenue that is the state is intending to put towards the pre-K type programs. Now, we don't know what the state's going to come up with, but so I agree that we should leave the fee structure alone, subject to revision if the state ponies up and makes substantial contribution to expanding early childhood education.
I do have some information on that. The issue is that the state is not going to save harmless schools that already were tuitioning students in. So the schools that are going to make out in that proposal, if it continues through the House and the Senate, are going to be schools that were providing services without charging tuition. We do get a level of reimbursement, or basically it's added to your Chapter 70 for students that are not paying tuition. So RLS special ed students that are in preschool get counted, and we do get tuition reimbursement from the state. The problem has always been that the state sets a fee or a limit to that tuition reimbursement based on what they think education should cost. So if your cost is higher than what the state says, and I don't know too many places that actually match what the state says it should be, you end up being at a deficit. So even if the state provides more money in Chapter 70, you end up having to supplement out of your operating budget. We had a meeting of the Association of School Business Officials discussing this, and it's an even double hit for schools like ours, because if you were to, for example, not collect tuition this year, so that you would capture, I believe they're doing 0.58% of foundation, about $5,500 per student. If you were to not collect that, that means you have to spend whatever you spend in preschool this year right out of your operating budget, wait until next year for them to count it, and then they'll give you money in the FY15 budget. So you spend the whole year where you would have to increase your budget. At least here would be significant. It would be at least a couple $100,000, about $190,000, and then wait a year later for the state to reimburse you. So, and then knowing that you would not get the full reimbursement for the expenses that you put in. That's my only concern. I know a lot of districts are asking the state that if, for example, if we don't pursue that this year, if they can create a bridge grant program for those districts that have been collecting tuition to get us through a year, so that then we can go back and say, maybe the state will give us $160, we have to put another $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 out of our pocket the following fiscal year. It's still in discussions.
Well, I agree with Michael that I don't think we have enough information at this point for pre-K, in my opinion. You both, Tony?
We're probably different subjects.
How late in the year, into this year, would we need to know what the fees are going to be for next, as far as when we start getting that information?
My hope is we will analyze the results of the survey probably this week, next week. It'll probably end up going to school council. That to me would be the next step. Then a recommendation would come to the school committee based on the results of the survey, the information from the principal, the administration, the teachers, the school councils, in a similar way that we have done the budget.
So when would, but what he's asking is at what point
I'm projecting
do we need to make a decision?
maybe a couple of weeks, because then what you want to do is be able to publish that to the parents so that they can sign up, set the money aside, and begin to
maybe by
make
our
plans.
next meeting, or we might know.
Next meeting?
2 weeks.
It really will
Maybe.
depend on when
So within the
Julie,
next month?
Yeah, when Julie can get her information from the school council and put
So
it in
within the
front of
next
her
month, we'll
staff.
take another look at this and see where we're at, get a better gauge, and revisit preschool.
Yeah, because you want to put it in front of the parents so they know.
Right, and see exactly what it is that the parents want, because we can open up slots that the parents may in fact not even want, and
Well, you still may have people say in a survey they want this, and you get 20 that say that, and then when you open it up, they don't sign up for it, and then you go,
But I'm not just talking about preschool fees, all fees in general.
no, we're just talking preschool right now.
No, I know, but I'm saying about all fees.
Eric, you had a question?
Mine's actually all fees type of thing also, because I thought we opened up all the doors.
Well, we did, but he just
Yeah.
talked about the pre-K.
And I'm a little bit rushed for
I
time
know,
here
I
this
keep looking
evening,
at the
so
clock.
the fees that you have here for the middle school, excluding spring sports, correct? So we're at $22,000 taken in. Spring sports haven't even happened yet, so we haven't collected any fees for that, correct?
Right.
Okay. Second question. Parking at the high school. I don't see anywhere in any of this where those fees are going.
Activities line at the high school.
No,
It's under
that's
activity,
not-
no.
That's not parking.
That's activities, the $25 to join the stamp club or whatever they're
Sheriff's,
doing. They're going on this little trip to Europe. I thought that was,
Melissa,
It's about 50.
Melissa.
and I don't think, Michelle, just to go back. I don't
parking
think we ever
fees, where do they go
comments
into?
from
Do they go into
the
the
public?
principal's
Oh, we
activity
did, okay. I wasn't
fund?
sure if the public was here for comments.
No, not
I did.
increase,
Okay.
the parking fees.
All the parking fees goes into the activities.
That, I thought it went into the activities.
It goes
Okay.
into the
It,
activities,
it
but
does
it's not
go into the
listed here.
activities account. If you look at the activities account, there's like $23,000 that we've been collecting over the years.
Mhm.
Those funds were basically from it used to be we only collected $25 for the whole year for anything the student wanted to be in, and then you had other small fees like the parking fees for kids who can drive anyway. And that's been collected. I don't think we've used that. I don't think Galton used that either. So we're going back $23,000 built up over probably 20 years.
And
It's 20,
$25.
25.
It
No,
used to
it
be
is.
just $25. Now it's more because we changed that last year, knowing that we wanted to build a cushion and then use it this year or next year.
now, what are we using for, so I just drove through and hit a few potholes.
Yeah, why don't we use that for the 65?
Well, unfortunately, we could use the funding left over in there for that. However, the size of the expense
Bigger than-
would be much bigger than what you have in there. So, for example, when we estimated the parking lot here was like $300,000-$400,000. So
Maybe some
even
cold patch might be nice, though.
we have actually put cold patch from time to time. It just doesn't hold. Last year I had talked to Jack Sisson, and he says whenever you put cold patch in a place like this, because the substrate is so messed up, all it takes is a month of people driving over it, and the sides start to crumble, and then it separates, and you got to do it again and again and again.
So
I just feel bad for the families that we've always told, we're gonna collect fees because we have to. 2 years ago, we're gonna collect for buses, we're gonna collect for sports, collect for everything. And we always told them, if we get to a point where we don't need to, we won't do it. And I'm seeing some very large balances.
Well,
and
so the breakdown of the recommendation for the fee structure is basically reducing use of property fees, so that's.
Over time, you
that's
would eat
our-
up those, if you reduce the fees, over time, you would eat up those balances.
It is online, because I printed it out.
Yeah,
This is the stuff I printed out from that packet.
So it's in here?
yeah.
Yes.
Because I printed this out, so.
It looks like a memo
It looks like this is.
just
Um,
before the summary sheets with
So the
each of the
breakdown is
revolvers.
pre-K, you're not recommending the change at this point.
Nope.
Use of property, reducing fees by 30%, which is 12,000.
Reducing it by about, well, we are collecting about 12,000 on average over the last few years, so
So a
reducing it
reduction
by,
of $3,885.70.
which we used to use to pay fuel costs.
Right.
Heating the
Sports, the
building.
recommended reduction is reducing the fee by $25, so bringing it from $225 to $200,
Mhm.
capping a family at $600, and capping any student at 2 sports per year.
So 400.
Activities, you're not recommending anything except for a cap
Mhm.
for $100 per student in a given year, which would be 4 activities. Transportation, you're recommending decreasing from $225 to $200 at the high school, $175 at the middle school, with a family cap of $375. School lunch, you're recommending a 25-cent increase on that one.
I'll
And I
explain that
know,
one if
I
you
read
want.
some of your comments on these, and I know your concerns are that in the long run, this is going to be depleting perhaps some of these accounts, and you're looking to take this money more out of the regular budget. Honestly,
In the
I think,
future,
but
not
that's
this
what I
year.
mean, in the future. Honestly, I think that's where it should be coming from. We should be paying for some of this stuff. I think this fee stuff is starting to become the Band-Aid that we're using to fix whatever.
And I think that's why we're seeing low turnout in baseball,
I actually
soccer,
agree with you.
and everything.
I mean, I think these family caps are extremely important. Michael, did you find the paperwork?
Yeah.
Okay. I would actually like to make a motion that we accept the decreases in fees. So this would be excluding the lunch one right now. The
Motion
decreases
to
in.
adopt the recommendation?
No, she was
already
motioning. She was
made
making
that.
the motion.
You were going to second it, I guess.
Oh, I thought you
All
were
right.
recapping it. Second.
Thank you.
She left out one of them.
Yeah.
I
the
did.
school lunch program,
Because the
because we have
school
to,
lunch is an increase, so.
and with vegetables, we have to buy local,
I
and
said,
I'm making a motion to accept the
Recommendation.
recommended decreases in fees. And Michael, I think, just seconded that.
yeah, 'cause typically if someone's commenting on
No,
they
I
don't-
said I'd
they
like to
don't
make a motion. I did say that. I
Right, but
said-
you were also the speaker before you made the motion. Usually,
Yeah, I
I was
led
trying to
into
help
my
you out
motion.
with the parliamentary.
they're trying to get me out to my.
I led into my motion. I was just sort of giving my reasoning too for the motion. Any other discussion on this?
Discussion? Yes, please. Would caution that the balances that we're seeing in many cases have to do with transfers and accounting to make up the accounting piece for what we plan to do for some of these activities. I know as a school committee, we took up a plan last year for uniform replacement. Because of the loss of the athletic director position, I don't think we've replaced all the uniforms that we have money to replace uniform equipment and supplies. So while I speak in support of the motion on the floor, I also caution going forward that we closely watch the cash flow through these accounts. I believe that the balances we're looking at now are not just free cash at the end of the year. We have plans for a lot of that to go back into the programs and invest in the programs. We need to continue to do that. So the footnote is some of those balances that are there now, and I think you took that into your math, that we need to really outfit our students with the caliber of their play. And the same, I could come up with a cliche for the activities as well. If we have a stamp club, let's get them great stamps. I don't know, but let's outfit the students with uniforms and equipment that is safe and something they're proud to wear as they represent our community. But that's my comment on going forward.
That's why I brought that up yesterday about the AD.
I'd also like to add another footnote. I know you commented in this breakdown on the activities about certain activities that we may talk about not charging a fee for. I'd like to see the policy committee take a look at that.
Okay.
I think, like Honor Society, for example, we should not be charging our students an activity fee to be in the Honor Society, or maybe the math club or homework club, for example.
I know that came up this year at the middle school, I believe, with
It
the
did.
8th grade talent show.
And that's
that
what-
they do every year, and
That's
Right,
why I
and
brought it in
think
here.
I'd like the policy committee to take a look at, so that we can send it back up to the full committee, which activities we feel are worthy of a fee
Technically,
and which ones.
we're not charging them.
See, the issue became when before we would charge only one activity. Most of the time, a student would participate in the first one, pay that one, and then anything else you
They
didn't
could
have
do
to
whatever
worry
they
about
wanted,
it, right?
right.
And now that we're saying, well, no, we're going to charge per activity, so hopefully we can put some money towards the material supplies, the advisors. Then we're coming up to some that is leaving some of us in the administration scratching our heads. The other thing is, every so often you come across students who, it may not be that the parents are on free and reduced lunch, but they're close to the edge, and they may have a financial situation currently that may not happen again later, but the student doesn't have the funds right there. And I was going to suggest that I want to reach out to the PTO and maybe the Ed Foundation to establish some kind of a scholarship account for those families that they could go to and ask for a
Are
little
free and
help.
reduced lunches exempt from activities, bus fees, and all the other?
Bus fees, yes. The other ones, no.
Okay.
That's why
It's
I'm making
in
those
here to add that.
recommendations in
Yeah.
here as well.
Okay.
And those are the kind of things that when you make the change and you let it run for a little bit, you see the issues that come
You
up.
can
And
always
you,
adjust it in a year or so and
right, we're trying to
tweak it.
change that.
All those in
I've
favor?
got one other
Oh, I'm
question,
sorry,
if I
Mike.
could,
Go
as
ahead.
I'm looking through the
Sure.
packet. I don't know if now's the time. The use of school facilities is part of this discussion, this form?
Yes.
Yeah.
Use
So-
of property, we call it. It's the second one on the
That was-
in the memo.
He reduced it.
by 30%.
KFR is being changed. My question on that is, when we collect the fees for use of school facilities, do they go into the town general fund, or, so where do they go?
They go into the use of property account.
So we have an account?
The revolver.
And that's a
Yeah.
revolver?
Yep.
And the money comes out of there based on transfers?
Usually we just use it to pay the part of the fuel bills. Usually what you do with a revolving account, you look for something that's related to what's generating the revenue to pay off. And if you don't have enough money in what the revenue you're generating, you have to supplement that with the operational budget. So sometimes it may be the person running the activity, or the coach, or maybe the transportation,
When
or
you
the
say fuel
refs.
bills, you mean like tractor fuel?
No, I mean like
Oh,
heating the
okay.
building.
Oh, for heating the building for the use
That's
inside.
why I
Gotcha.
wanted to
Okay.
discuss that, because I think, again, this gets into that generalized discussion of revenue being part of budgetary discussions and fees. We've got soccer and baseball using outside facilities, paying the lion's share of this fee, but we're paying fuel bills to it. Perhaps we could align with actual costs associated with the particular area. If it's outside activity and
Goes towards the cutting of the grass.
We
or
could change
whatever.
it to the
again,
maintenance
it
of the
may be an
machines.
accounting
and-
adjustment.
Yeah.
There is costs with that.
Right.
Janitor in the building, but, so these have been reduced also.
Yeah,
And,
there was a couple of people had
$3,885
called me and said, "Can you look at it?"
great, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can we talk about the lunch one on a day when Michelle's here?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
She can explain it a little bit better. She knows the actual machines that are
I think I'd rather
on the
do
edge.
that.
Okay.
All right, back up to B for FY14 School Committee Education Budget.
Madam Chair, before we begin, I would ask that we remove line 10 from the media budget, on page 19. In full disclosure, you guys know that my wife is filling in that position, right?
Yeah.
So it's the media budget on page 19, line 10.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in
Yeah, I'll
favor?
have a little bit
Oh,
of
I'm
stuff. We
sorry.
actually did this last year, so it's nothing new that we're doing. We're
No.
just doing the same thing
Right, and I'm going to do.
because of disclosure.
21
And the same
in
thing
high
with
school.
line
Yep.
21.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'd also like to make the same motion for line 21 in the Westport High School budget for $51,400.
Should we done those for you guys? Ethically, mine, or should we be making the motions to remove
We
those
can
from the line?
reverse them. We can reverse them if you'd like.
Yeah, just so everything's above
Want to
board.
withdraw your motion?
So I'll withdraw my motion and motion that we remove line 21 of the Westport High School budget. The, what is it, coaches?
Yep.
Plenty coaches.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll make the identical motion, but for line 10 of the West budget, $52,819. Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Full disclosure, I am a coach. We have both filled out all the ethical stuff that we have to fill out with the state.
And this just allows them to speak about the budget
right.
that they're involved in.
So line 10 and line 21 will not be included in any discussion, and they have to be voted on separately. And it's part of being a special municipal employee. All right. Are there any comments on, who would like to open up discussion
I
on
have
this?
a quick question.
Michael.
On an item we've gone over. On the revolving accounts, I'm not sure if that same concern has to do with any organizations who may be in a business relationship with the school department paying into school facilities. We've just reduced fees for organizations that rent space from us.
Mm-hmm.
If I rented space here and I was a board member of an organization, I would recuse myself.
There's a
So I just
form.
bring that
If you
up.
were on the board or an officer, is what they call it, an officer on record of the organization, yes, but as far as I know,
Or an
There-
employee.
there-
If-
I-
or
If I was
employee.
employed by a summer camp that came in and rented space and you just reduced my fees, I would excuse myself.
I actually
Yeah.
think I can also answer some of that. There is a form that a disclosure form that all of us that have children here now have to fill out because the fees affect
Every one of us.
all of us except for you, Michael. So there is a form when you change the structure of the fees that we all have to fill out and file with the.
I don't know of it yet. I'm learning of it now.
We filled one out. You filled it out
You
before.
didn't share it with him that time.
The
I
three
may
of us
be-
filled them out.
I may have.
When
I just can't recall.
Changed
yeah, that was
bus fees.
I
bus
think it was
fees
for the
last
bus
spring.
fees.
Was it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
last
did fill
spring.
it out, so it's filed over there because I
Okay.
brought them down there. So there is a form. I will get everybody a copy of it.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael. Who would like to open discussion up on? He's provided. We do have additional documentation that was asked. The grants.
You have the grants, you have the revolvers, you have enrollment projections, you have the organizational structure, you have the staff lists, and you have an analysis of more or less what it would cost for the couple of things that Mr. Sullivan had requested we look into adding to the budget Monday, I believe.
Yes, which was the $9,000 for.
Gifted and talented
and
testing
talented, and then the part-time business manager.
And those have been added to this.
They have not.
No,
Okay.
this is what.
That's why I had to write it on a separate memo.
It's this
basically is ready to
I
have.
did read that before.
This one's ready to have any changes you want to make to it, up, down, sideways.
So
What
this
to
is the
add.
same budget, the 777, 700 adjustment up. That's the same budget that we saw the other day.
These are the same.
But yes,
Yes.
But
They're the same numbers.
but I want to make
Just more detail.
No, the
No,
one
the
from before
grants-
has more detail.
You
Okay.
have
This one
grants
has
in
the
there.
grants.
Okay.
The actual grant applications and information are all in that packet.
I know the wording of this motion is going to be really awkward because we had a problem with the wording of it last time, of accepting a budget type of thing. Because we're not accepting it, I guess we're
Well,
receiving it.
We still have to go through our process of our
Yes.
meeting and all of that, so it is still open for change.
Receiving, make a motion, we receive the school committee FY14 budget and bring it forward to the next step of,
Well, you can make changes to it, and
Right,
if you
and I
make
think that's what
changes
he's
at this juncture, you can say, we accept the school committee education budget with the following changes, and then when you see this the next time, it'll
It'll
have
have
the
the
changes
changes slipped in.
integrated into it.
I just have a question on the grants.
Yes.
From like 12 to 13, I mean, there's like a couple $100,000
Dropped.
difference. Just
Mostly it's
We're working on
the ERA
Okay.
funding.
The cover page
Second-
on the grants.
Second page.
Second page.
Ed Jobs was a big amount of money that we received. If you remember, the state knew, well, the federal government knew that there would be reductions in both receipts on the town level, the state level, and the federal level. And they created the Americans Recovery
Eric, if you look,
and
it's under
I got it.
federal state grants on the.
and Reinvestment Act. And one of those was they sent the states a lot of money to allow towns to keep teachers employed.
The first page.
He's still looking for it.
Oh, wait.
One more, Mike. One more. First page. Go ahead.
That grant was allowed to cover a 2-year span. Some districts chose to do it right away and use it all in the first year and reduce their budgets. We chose to spread it out over 2 years, but it was only a 2-year grant. So the way we used it was to, if, for example, last year, if we hadn't saved some of that money, our cuts would have been even
Deeper.
further back. This year, that grant ends. The only thing that's left out of that money is the Race to the Top. And I have to tell you, the Race to the Top is extremely narrow in the way it can be used, because they didn't want to make the Race to the Top monies into anything that would be built into a budget that you would have to redo over and over and over again. So they wanted you to get technology, they wanted you to get training, they wanted you to get curriculum up and running. So for example, we put it into things that we didn't have. We did get some technology through it. We are getting the program for the guidance department, the training that they have gotten. Those things that you do it once, and then when it's done, you don't need to reinvest in it. So next year will be the end of it. We're going to use a big chunk of that to move forward our professional development around developing units of study. The state has been doing it across the whole state, and hopefully with the efforts of the state and our individual efforts, we'll get all our units updated, because they also, in the middle of it, changed the Common Core standards. So my hope is we will be able to use that. There's some money left over into next year, about $100,000. Most of it will go to staff development. But if you take a look at all the other grants that we've been getting over the years, Title I, the SPED, the entitlement, Title II, all those grants have slowly been reduced. So every time the state cuts, the grants cut. In fact, one of the things that we're a bit in fear over is some of these grants are directly funded by the federal government. Title II, SPED, the 94-142, the early childhood. We're not sure if we're even going to get the program improvement anymore. Title I, all of those are federal programs. If the sequestration actually occurs, we won't see an impact in this year's funding, but beginning July 1st, we may see as much as a 5% reduction. We did some calculations, rough calculations, and for us, at least with the Title I, it may not be a big hit. We do have an increase in the number of students with free and reduced lunch, which usually translates into additional needs. So Title I would go up because of the additional needy children that we have, but then it would come down because of the sequestration, hopefully not making a huge gap of 5% out of the almost $40,000 that we receive year to year. This year we actually received less. We were at 223, I believe. So they're all going down slowly over the years, and if sequestration hits, it'll go down even further.
Eric?
No, Dr. Colley, I know Michael had brought this up at the last meeting about the gifted and talented, and you have a little memo in here on how many identified students we possibly have.
Yep.
Within this budget of 15.9, Are we able to absorb about 9,000? Or do we need to add 9,000 to our budget line total? If we were to implement this.
My concern is I don't know if it would only be 9,000. 9,000. I'm using our current staff calculated. One of the ways we could come very close is if we had a couple of years ago we got an intern out of Rhode Island College for psychology. That would be someone that you could, with short money, go get an intern. They do cost about $10,000 to participate in the program. As to a change, we could. I did this today, so I haven't identified where it would come out of if you wanted to just make a swap. Otherwise, yes, it would be an addition too.
Now I know we've talked, we haven't ever done anything about it, but we have a $3,000 school committee budget.
It's 2.
Oh, it's down to 2?
It's 2,000.
Okay. I know we've talked about paying for our own conferences in future years. I'm not going to be here, so it doesn't make a difference to me. If we needed 2,000 out of that, bless you.
I'm also, I would be in favor of reducing that line to nothing.
So we can get something rolling on that. I'd rather see gifted and talented students get identified so we can help them rather than going to a conference that I can pay for.
Michael?
Sorry, Michael.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that intention. In fact, in 2010, I attended at my own expense the New England Gifted and Talented Conference down in Connecticut. I had shared some information with the director of curriculum at that time. I've identified many areas that we could support that testing to start to address a particular need. I think we could get it started with a pilot program, and I think there's substantial transfers between psychological services, student services, and SPED budgets that could easily absorb that amount. I'm concerned to not have the eligibility of educating our school committee further in at things like our seminars that we go to.
Even if we cut it in half, maybe. I don't know.
Dr. Call, if we were to go forward, this program, what's the next step once these students are identified? And then where do we go from there?
Well, once you identify them, the question becomes, what are you going to do about it? It's always good information to know who those students are with greater specificity. I mean, right now, I bet you could go to any teacher and ask who are your top 1 or 2 students. But the top 1 student in this grade, in this classroom, may really be much higher than the top student in this classroom. This student may really be able to be classified as gifted and talented. So you look for things, you look for several points of data. One could be MCAS data, one could be classroom data, one could be the teacher's recommendation. But at some point you want some outside level of evaluation that would level the playing field. IQ testing is one of those. They just take a
once we
What do you do
identify
once
those
you're-
students, then
once you identify them, 2 things. One, within a grade level structure, you could ask teachers to, and they do already in many cases. So for reading language arts, they may have 3 small groups going. But instead of me just calling my top students who are reading this particular book, I may take my top 2 and 2 from the room next door and 2 from the room across the way, put them together, and then provide them a much different experience that can push their limits. And perhaps at that point, then you start also looking at training teachers, how to deal with students who may be 2, 3, 4 grade levels above in subject area knowledge, and also how those kids develop, because they don't all develop at the same rate and they don't all develop the same way in all areas. Just because you have a high IQ doesn't mean you're good in all areas. You may be really good in math and not so much in other areas. So trying to, I hate to call it that, but profile the students so that you provide an appropriate program for them, that would be the first step. At a place like the middle school, where you would have probably perhaps a larger cluster of students that you could identify. We're just looking at, I did some research with our psychologists as to what the percentage could be, anywhere between 3 and 6, 7% of the population. In the middle school, you could have a cluster of students that could work on specific projects with an advisor, perhaps at a certain period of the day, while the rest of the students are going elsewhere. They gather together and do things like Odyssey of the Mind. We could use perhaps something like Odyssey where, we just met, I didn't, Dr. Dargan met with them today, and they gave us a whole list of programming that they could be on. That goes all the way down to a few for elementary school, but a lot middle school and just general electives. But imagine
the same
if
program that's used up here.
Right, but imagine if you have a few students who are really interested in math, and they're in, maybe even 5th grade, and they already could be doing high school level math. This would be a great way to get them going, as long as you had somebody supervising them. So it's kind of creating the structure, the framework, the schedule that would work for those kids.
And the intent for this would be next year? Or is this something we could do this year already?
This year I know we don't have the capacity, and I don't.
Well, we are tracking surplus this year.
We could do that, but remember the surplus, a lot of it I was targeting for some of those other needs in this year that we kind of took off the budget to reduce the level of needs.
I'd like to see us start either this year or next year. I would like to identify the students. We owe it to the kids to do that to them, and to identify them and give them whatever opportunities. I know we had 2 students test out of 8th grade at Conley.
Yep.
So.
And we'll leave it up to the superintendent to
Michael.
figure out the fund.
Well, there's another component which I also am aware of, and those are the students that don't shine in class. Those students that aren't exceptional learners, that the teacher's not aware of their capabilities, and that's not the broad intent of this program, but certainly it gives another tool. I'd like to see this year an investment up to the $9,000 in starting this program. Doesn't
For this current
pilot
year?
program for the current year, if it can be worked into.
When we get results back, if we IQ test now, and what's the turnaround time?
The IQ tests, they're mostly done individually, so you're talking per student. It takes anywhere between a couple hours plus an hour to crank out the numbers. And usually, if you do that kind of testing, you're going to sit down with the parent. So it's staff personnel time. It's all it is.
So the parents have an opportunity to opt out if they, for some reason, choose not to?
Oh, absolutely. To do that kind of testing, you would have to send home a form that's a consent to test. And then after you test, you'd have to meet with the parent, obviously. And if they want to bury the information, don't want anybody to know, of course, that's their prerogative, too.
And it would all be private information.
It's always private information.
So are we, is, on the recommended budget from the superintendent, the 777,700, are we suggesting any adjustments up, down?
I'm going
We're
to...
now back into the 20...
Yeah, because this was part of that.
2014. I'm, and again, I'm thinking like you at the table. We may be able to do some adjustment based on the retirement that we're expecting from the director of special ed.
Okay.
That's
So
why I
cover some of
identified
that.
it Monday that we, we're expecting any savings from that, so.
Well, we
The
will.
retirement of our special ed director and bringing someone that's, oh, that was announced a few,
Mhm.
3-4 meetings
Oh, a
ago.
while ago.
Yeah.
3 or 4 meetings ago, she's retiring.
In
So we may
August.
recoup some savings hiring someone at a lesser degree level or
Well, we
However.
basically then just make
less
the
tenure.
posting, we make the
Yeah,
posting.
Posted less money.
Well, Dr.
Michael?
Scott, I mean, if you feel
Hey,
comfortable, sorry.
he had the floor.
Thank you.
No problem.
There's some line items
Hey.
that I think we could look at based on transfers tonight,
Mhm.
unless we've already made those adjustments. If we're transferring out of some categories that were in 2013's budget, because we don't need the money this year, are we adjusting that down in our budget?
Pretty much all those transfers that you saw were made in this year's, well, we scheduled to make them in this year's budget. Now that they're approved, they will be made in this year's budget. And we had built them into the budget for next year,
To where we transferred them to or where they came from.
where they came from and where the money went to.
So if we bought Chromebooks, we might necessarily not be buying Chromebooks next year, so we have a line item with some extra cash.
Did we change the Chromebook lines? I think what we did is we changed it, in other words, we moved money into lines for this year's. In next year's, it's in the, I think it was middle school? We put them in the middle school?
If you look in my back, sorry, I should know this better.
Yeah, you do.
This is why you had
Look in the
last
backup
week's.
detail, it's highlighted in orange. It was something that we had talked about, and I put FY13.
Right.
And it's purchased, so I took it out of
Right.
the
13.
requested amount for 14. If
Or there.
for some reason those transfers don't go through like we
Mhm.
are suggesting, then I'm gonna need to go back to that and put those back in, because they were
Okay.
high-ticket
They're
items.
I saw those. I have a way to go
Yeah.
to. Are we gonna vote
Let's
on this?
right now.
I'd like to.
Okay.
So
So Mike's got a motion.
there's actually many, that's not a motion yet, but
Yeah.
there's many, I had a motion.
No, you make a
No,
motion for
he's
that?
talking. Yeah, we need to decide what we're
The,
going to do with this budget.
Again, I'm concerned with some of the larger transfers that change the reflection of the budget presentation. If the committee's comfortable with now calling this our school committee budget, but we're going to adjust it, that's what I'm hearing, if I understand what's being
Yes.
said. I'm not comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with accepting the budget and calling it our
Draft.
as a draft until I can, because some of these transfers, again, are came about before we started the budgetary process. So when we
Are
start to
you
look at.
talking about the transfers that we
That we
just
just
voted
did.
on?
Correct.
So for example, if we had talked in the fall about the IEP chair, and we transferred monies left over from people who retired or were hired at a lesser rate, that change, not only was it made on a transfer, was also made on the budget.
Mhm.
So it's already accounted for in the budget. He's asking if Mike, I'm trying to understand your question. He's asking if there are any where we made the transfer this year, but there may be additional funding still left in the FY14 budget that we haven't accounted for. And
Well, maybe we can just look at this one I circled. There's a few more, but this will give a better understanding. SPED out-of-district private tuition, we had a $65,000 transfer over to OTPT. So has that $65,000 been deducted from the category ending in,
No, it was deducted from the out-of-district tuition line.
right, 9720?
Right. But now it appears in this.
I know in the transfer it was,
She said it's been
She's
reflected.
saying
but
it's
in
been
the budget
reflected.
document, it's been adjusted
Yes,
before,
because it's one of
because
those,
we knew it was coming.
we had talked about that one in the fall, yes.
If you see, on the SPED budget, it says that amount is an increase.
Everyone's in agreement.
So on 39,
People are going to want to hear you. You have to sit in front of the microphone. You can use the tape. We'll let you sit.
You too.
No, we're getting
Everyone's blown up on me. Thank
It's
you.
okay.
Sorry, Eric.
Sorry, Mike, on page 30, which is the sped budget, if you see the line where it says system, line 39, you'll see,
System OCC.
right, physical therapy, that line, you'll see how it increased to 195 from the previous year.
Right.
So I've deducted it from the tuition account and moved it into that line. And the reason why we've already reflected that, and that's why it showed in this year's and 13
Right.
transfer.
So there's a good example of my concern, and that
Correct.
one's been taken care of.
Some of
but-
the others are just simply operating, there might have been
Yeah.
a little bit more in supplies and they needed it contracted, so I'm assuming that when the departments are working within their budgets, they're looking at what's happening within the year and they're taking that into account when they're submitting their lines.
Right, and that actually points to some of those areas departmentally where, as Eric pointed out, if there were some one-time expenses, we want to make sure that we zeroed that back out at the starting point. But
Right.
we can look at that as we go forward to the hearing date. I think we're anxious as a school committee to, so thank you for that.
Yeah, and I think it was
That
a good
addresses the
and I think it was a
concern.
good suggestion that maybe we come up with some of these operating transfers that we might not need to if we have a cap as to something less than 1,000. That might minimize some of them and then concentrate on the ones that
are
are
big.
transfers from hiring or whatever it might be.
Is it going to make your job easier?
It definitely will.
Just to-
Yes,
anyone
it would make
who's
her
watching
job
doesn't
a
know,
lot easier.
Yeah.
Melissa is a senior member in the business office. Is that what would?
Yeah,
We'll-
I
we'll
would
call
say.
her that.
Title
Yeah.
So-
I'd say 19 years, yeah.
You started as an intern, I guess.
just
and-
started
Is
when you were
Sheila?
like 8.
Well, actually, yeah,
Yeah,
I should say
Sheila-
Sheila has
she's the
more
senior
within
man.
the school, but not in the business office.
Not in the
So
business.
thank you.
She started working when she was 10.
Yeah.
So yes, I've addressed my conceptual concern. So as the motion is ready to be made,
Sure.
I will make the motion to accept the document titled FY14 School Committee Budget as the operational budget for the Westport Community Schools,
Excluding line 10.
excluding line 19 and
Line 10 in the West budget and line 21 in the high school budget. I'll second that motion. Are you done?
So with the second to that motion, I just want to point out, as we've had some prolonged discussions over budget document, this is a component of our budget document. This motion is accepting an operating budget, which is a piece of our budget document. I urge all of us to review the MASPO document that I provided today on what a budget document includes. The fact that we're looking at revenue tonight, and it's a lot of pieces, it shows a detail that a lot of our revenues have declined. And to me, that's part of the budget document. To me, we want to have a presentation, maybe not all these this can be backup. So going forward, we still are going to perhaps have further discussion on our final document. The motion is an operating budget, and that's what we're approving by this vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'd also like to make a motion to accept line 10 of the West budget
As is.
as is.
Okay. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Now a motion to accept line 21 of the Westport High School budget as is.
Second.
In favor?
Yes. Oh, she's not calling it either.
In favor? Aye.
Aye.
Did I do that wrong?
Abstaining.
Thank you.
All right, on to the approval of the minutes of Wednesday, February 13th. I just also want to make note to anybody that is watching, all of the budget documents are online at westportschools.org. If you have any questions, all of those umpteen papers have been put up there. All of the grant information is up there. All of the policies that we made reference to tonight, everything is up there. Total transparency. So please, if you have any questions, please do look at it. And if you need any clarifications, please contact the superintendent, contact us, whatever. All right.
And I just think, if I could, through the
Sure.
chair, just worth noting that we anticipate having a more concise, what I was calling document, that alleviates needing to go to the different links, and that'll be a summation of the operations, the revenues, hopefully.
An
as we go
executive
forward.
summary.
But that, yes, everything's on there. It's just, it's tough for me to find it, so I've heard that from other people as well in terms of, because there's so many places to look.
It's actually, if you go to the westportschools.org website, click on school committee, and then you would actually select the 2013 2-27, which is today's date, and all of the links are there. Okay, on to the minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve minutes from February 13th.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye. School committee business, correspondence. There's a few things here.
I don't even know what's in her.
And I also did get some email correspondence from Sue Branco over at the library. She did ask me to mention that they are having a concert, Elixir on Mute. It is a Westport resident, Jordan Ferreira. It is at the high school on March 8th at 8 p.m. Tickets are at the library $10 or at the door $15. Also, the Westport Middle School has honk going on next week.
Same day, first
it is
one.
the same day, but it's at the middle school.
And it's earlier, so they can go there and
They
then
can.
to the concert.
Honk is at 6:30 on March 1st and 2nd, and that is at 8 p.m. at the high school. So those are two things that are going on. Is there anything else going on? Not that I can think of.
Not that I can think. NIASC team will be here, not this weekend, next weekend, visiting. They'll come on Sunday and spend 3 days with us, well, including Sunday, be 4 days, going through the evaluation for the accreditation of the high school. So if anybody wants the information on the itinerary, the high school principal has it. I believe she'll be posting it soon. School committee's invited, I believe, in the afternoon on Sunday to meet with the NIAS team.
She said at 1 p.m.
1 p.m.
And then meeting with the NIAS team at 2:30.
Yeah.
This is just from Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Elhaney. It's just a final HIPAA regulations information, and this looks like for a magazine. Magazine, Bill?
It's
Just
correspondence.
won $1 million.
Ah, yeah. Any new business?
There is, Mr. Sullivan pointed out that you do have a budget hearing that will be coming up. A budget hearing is basically presenting where you are in the budget process to the public, so the public can then have input. And after that, you can, after hearing the input from the public, you can change the budget, just like we were doing today, looking for ways to integrate, for example, the gifted and talented testing. People can come up and give ideas of what should be or shouldn't be in the budget. Then it's up to the school committee to weigh those, include them, not include them, and eventually, you have a little bit more time to craft the budget, but I'm happy to see that we're moving in that direction. I know it's a lot of papers. I will work with you to try to collect the pieces that are most important and then provide the backup, but eventually make a condensed version of like an executive summary that will allow people to see the overall picture, and then those who want the additional backup detail can have it online, or we can have specific copies of it so we don't kill too many trees, and if people have questions they can come and ask us.
And right now the budget hearing is scheduled for March 13th.
March 13th. Now,
We're
that
still working on the
happens-
place.
I just found out some more about. Because the NEASC team will be here, we won't be able to have the school committee meeting here that night. I did talk to people at the town hall today. We would have to go through the town clerk, but there is the possibility of using some of their rooms that are already rigged for video and sound. We just have to make sure that once I get what room we can use down there, we can then let the public know. But on the 13th, my expectation is the meeting will probably be down in the town offices, perhaps in the annex. They have a big room that's already rigged for video and audio. So if you want to come to the budget hearing, look for the posting that will tell you exactly which room we'll be using, but it will most likely be down there.
And the budget hearing also has to be posted in the newspapers, so you can also look
It
in
will
the
be in the
newspaper.
newspaper,
It will
yep.
be posted within 2 weeks.
We will be posting probably as
It's
soon
2
as
weeks,
tomorrow.
right? But it's
Yep.
2 weeks.
We'll post
Okay.
tomorrow once I know which
Any other
room
new
they let
business?
us use.
Yes. I mentioned it Monday. But I would like some sort of report, nothing fancy, but on the state of the athletic uniforms and equipment and,
We talked about having him here.
yeah, I mean,
I will as soon
Good.
as he gets through the.
Let him get
because
through.
from what I understand, there are teams out there that have like 5 different uniforms. You know, they got 3 sevens on the same team, just different, a lot of
I haven't heard it
seen
that badly,
yeah, I
but
haven't seen that.
I do know
They
that
do
some of
have
the, like the
different
JVs, usually the uniforms get
Get
bought
passed
for the
down.
varsities
Yeah,
and
see,
get
that we gotta
passed
get we
down.
gotta, you know, one day we gotta bite the bullet. And so that was one thing, and then the other thing I mentioned was that the SOIs, at some point, we gotta narrow those down.
The SOIs, I can tell you, in fact, I noticed that it pinged on my email. I just got the password to be able to get in. They actually, which last year they told me they wouldn't. They just said they did. They took a lot of the information from last year's submittal and uploaded it into the forms for this year, so it'll actually make my job a little easier.
As far as exactly, you know, from
Narrowing it down.
Yeah, exactly what
So we need to.
direction we are.
It will once I see how much they were able to upload, I'll put together the ideas that we narrowed down a little bit with the CPIC. I'll bring them here. You have to vote on them anyway. There's specific language for the votes, so I'll probably bring them twice. First to show you what there is, you can tell me how to change it, and then I'll come back for the actual vote, or we'll make changes on the table and make the actual vote. From there, it has to go to the selectmen.
And we can make all 4 applications and decide afterwards? There's
Well,
nothing to
one of
do
the
on last-
one of the things we suggested was to go to the capital improvement planning committee, because they would probably be one of those gates, and if they didn't want to basically look at all 4, we could vote, but if they don't support it, the selectmen won't support it, and then I just wasted a couple of weeks of writing additional ones.
Yeah, but we as a committee authorized preparation of all 4, and it doesn't cost anything to do 4 versus 2. I think it's
Just time.
premature to make a presentation because we don't have all the details of any of the 4 options, so, but again, we have to put it on the agenda.
Mike, just to bring you up to speed, not today's.
This isn't on the agenda though.
But at the last CIPC meeting, they basically, two of the options they'd rather us not go after, but.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't there to explain my option, so again, I would urge that we keep all four open. I think that,
Okay, we'll put it on the agenda. I don't want too much discussion on it because it's not on the
Yeah.
agenda, so.
Okay. But it's moving.
It is moving. And I kind of agree with you on that one, I think. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's more time, I understand that, but because it's gotta go to the selectmen anyway, it has to be approved by us and the selectmen before it can go anywhere, so.
And they suggested we go to the CIPC before we even go to
Right.
them.
No,
Which is
I
fine.
mean,
To get their
I think we're
input.
making it good.
To get their
Complaining
input.
about the ones they want to get rid of.
Right.
We'll discuss.
Okay. Are there any comments or statements from the public before we wrap up? No? Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Oh, before we do, the boys are playing at 7, so if anybody wants to head out.
We get out before 7.
Is there a second?
To adjourn.
Yeah.
second.
Sorry. All those in favor?